Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be covering the Veiled Blade Elimination Force. I know this one is a little bit later than how quickly I covered the other ones, but just scheduling issues made it harder to get this out quickly. But this is one that I had mentioned that I was interested in, well, the faction at least. And overall, this one, it really just isn't what Imperial agents needed. But I do think it's a fun one. It definitely needs some changes and definitely will not help the faction just as a whole. But I will be interested to experiment with this and see how this does overall. So this is going to be main focus of the assassins of the Imperium. So we're going to be looking at extremist sanction. So basically all the assassins are being used and pushed beyond their limit to complete a mission or assassinate a target. So for the Officio Assassinorum, units from your army can use Overkill, Soulless Horror, and Shieldbreaker abilities twice per battle instead of once per battle. But you can't use it more in the same battle round. So there are once per game abilities, can be used twice, just can't use them in the same turn. Overall, I do like this. I think the biggest one being like the Shieldbreaker. Having another use of it is great, just because of how much damage that can be put out. But the fact we are still only limited to one does make it feel a little less good. I know they're epic heroes, but basing an entire detachment around 4 models doesn't seem like the greatest of ideas. So when mustering your army, each Officio Assassinorum for your unit has the relevant ability shown on the right, and you must increase the points cost of those for each unit shown by the amount. This causes your army to exceed battle point limit for the battle you're playing. You cannot include that unit in your army. Basically, you can't go above it, but these extremist abilities have to be deployed. So your about 100, 120 point assassins, or even a little less, instantly shoot up to a massive price point, which I think that's really rough for these units that are already an iffy kind of thing to bring in for a whole army, because it really kind of pushes you to want to run all 4 of them, which you're taking up a huge point slot just to get being forced to take these in, and I don't think they're worth the amount of points that they are. I think they're good abilities, but I just don't think they're worth the whole amount of points that they are. But let's take a look at each of them. So the first one is decoy targets of the Caldus Assassin. The agent Caldus Temple are known to utilize background doubles to confound their foes. So this is for the Caldus month only. Twice per battle, in your movement phase, you can select one other friendly infantry model that is on the battlefield and not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. The select model is destroyed, so you can just pluck one out of a unit. And it does ignore any rules triggered, so like shoot on death or anything like that does not trigger. And this model is removed from battle, so it's just picked up and set up as close as possible where that model was destroyed, and it's not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. This ability cannot be used more than once per round. So this is for the Caldus. Let's take a look at them. Hang on there. Get off this. So for the Caldus, it has the Neural Shredder. Let's see. Get a picture. Yep, so it's the up and down one. So normally, what it has is acrobatic escape. It's at the end of the fight phase. The model's able to, if it's within engagement range, it can fall back up to a d6 or roll for it, and if it's more than 3 inches away, you can pick it up, send it back into reserves, and it can deep strike back in again. And then if the enemy targets the unit nearby with it within 12 inches of stratagem, it costs 1 more. So that's really good. So it's always kind of an uppy downy kind of model phasing in and out. So I do like the fact that you're able to readjust it a bit more at the start. If you, let's say, need to absolutely take out like a leader for like assassination, secondary mission or something, and you had to do like another an action secondary objective, you can quickly have a bounce over there at the cost of 1 model, which most units can kind of paid attacks. You definitely want to run more infantry based, just so that you're not losing out on too much. Overall, not a bad ability. I don't think it's helping enough to be worth 40 points, but at the same time, it's not like it's a hindrance. So for esoteric explosives, this is for the Cloix Assassin only. Each time this model is targeted with the grenade stratagem, so you pop a grenade. One more wound is inflicted for each d6 on a 3-up instead of a 4-up. So for that one, so this should be, yeah, so it's kind of the brain grenade guy. Movement phase, set up a deep strike ability, it can form Ethic Emergence. It does so. This is part of the core rule change, which is kind of glad why I waited. So instead of being able to move up 3 inches because of the core rule change, it is now 6 inches away, but it's not able to clear charge, so not the greatest thing. This is what I'm thinking of, right? Yeah. So with this, anytime you target it with grenades, you get to wound on a 3 instead of a 4. So honestly, not bad. So being able to kind of pop up real quick, toss a grenade, launch some extra attacks. Honestly, not a bad thing, but once again, this kind of sucks because you're having to spend a command point on the grenades. So it's definitely one where you're going to want to be careful about how you do it. And we'll get into their CP later for their stratagems, but this is one where it feels like you really have to budget it out. But for the Evisar Assassin and its interneural biotech, for it once per battle round, so you can do it just multiple times during multiple turns, but just only once per turn. You can target this model with heroic intervention or counteroffensive for free for 0 CP, and even if you've already used it on a different unit during the phase. So if you needed to attack first or needed to race in and try to save something, that you do have that option available for free. So that's good. That helps cut down on your CP a little bit. So for this guy, he's the one who's got the skull head and kind of like the, I want to say it's like a nail gun pistol. I don't really know how to describe it though. So this guy, he's able to advance and charge and shoot. So that's good. Falling back is the only thing he can't do. But being able to race in helps a little bit more. And then once per battle, this unit can make the does add 6 inches to its movement characteristics and add 3 to weapon. So that's really good. So if you pop this, you race in, get some shots in, and then charge in. Let's say you kill your target, and the next turn, or you have another unit position nearby where he's able to be close by. He's able to race in and continue his fighting, even with the buff, because it says the end of turn. Okay, never mind. So overall, another thing I do like, counteroffensive and heroic intervention for free, really good. This guy has some good melee, precision and sustained hits, and anti-infantry 3-up, so you can have him race a squad of. He can challenge even something greater like a librarian and his Terminator squad. He might still be able to pick some off. But overall, I do like it. It's just, again, for the 35 points, I'm not a huge fan of how much it costs. And then, finally, micro melta rounds for the Vindicare. So that's your sniper. For 45 points, so this is the most costly one. For the Vindicare, the Exodus rifle has anti-monster 4-up and anti-vehicle 4-up abilities. So getting those extra hits in on it, let me pull up his data sheet. Vindicare. So he has the Exodus rifle and the Exodus pistol. The pistol we're not really too concerned with right now, but his rifle would have anti-infantry, or not anti-infantry, monster and anti-vehicle 4-up. So being able to get those dev wounds a lot easier on monsters if you're fighting, let's say, Thousand Suns want to take out. I don't recommend doing it, but if you want him to try to focus down like a Warp Beast or something, or even I think Fulgrim counts as a monster, or not Fulgrim, Mank. Magnus. Wow. And then, or like a Rhino or something. He could definitely do it. D3 plus 3 mortal dev wounds is definitely nothing to scoff at. And then his biggest thing, which he gets twice now, is his shield breaker. Once per battle, when selecting targets for this model's Exodus rifle, it can fire a shield breaker round. If it does, in a phase, each time this makes attack, add 1 to the wound roll, and any successful wound automatically scores a critical. So that's really good, getting off even more of those dev wounds. Definitely makes it a lot scarier to deal with, especially since he can take away lone operative. I really like the Vindicator. It's one of the most popular sides in that and the coldest. So I think it's a good buff. I can see why it's 45 points, but again, I think it's just a little overcosted for what you're getting. But onto the stratagems, we've got prime target. During the shooting phase, target one of the agents of Imperium unit that has not been elected to shoot or fight this turn during your shoot or fight phase. Until the end of phase, each time this model makes an attack, if it targets a character, reroll wound rolls of 1, and if it's made by an assassin model and it targets the enemy warlord, you can reroll all wound rolls instead of just the only ones, only rolling the ones you get. So again, not bad. Really good for having an assassin race in and try to take out a key model for assassination missions or secondaries, or trying to get rid of like OC control, or if they've got like a really good ability or something, having a way to really kind of pick off wounds from that and deal with like a high threat target is always good. So Hyperstims, this is 2 CP, so this is going to be like your more costly one. We have a lot of defensive ones to go through. During your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after the enemy has selected its targets. This one, you target a character, so it can't be just used on any model. So if one of your characters has been selected for the attack, to the end of the phase, add 1 to a toughness characteristic. And in addition, if it's the Eversor, he gets a 4 of Feel No Pain. So a good way to kind of keep force, you might push a 3 to a 4, or even like a 4 to a 5. It's very rare to push like a 5 going into a 6 with this, but definitely can happen, even like a 2 to a 3. And if it's the Eversor, giving him that 4 Feel No Pain really gives him some better survivability. I like this. 2 CP. It's going to be rough trying to keep... So the Eversor is going to be bouncing around just like with the other assassins. So trying to keep him alive with 2 CP is going to be really costly, but there are some other options, and we'll go through those. Again, this is going to be this entire army. It's very command point reliant. So picking and choosing exactly where CP is going to be vital, especially for this detachment. So for your shooting phase, we have Will Sapping Salvo, choosing Agents of the Imperium infantry models, or an infantry unit from your army that hasn't shot yet. To the end of the phase, their ranged weapons have sustained hit 1. In addition, if it's the Colex Assassin, to the end of the phase, damage characteristic of the model's weapons are changed to 3. So for kind of your mid-range engagement assassin, he gets consistent damage and a lot better chance to get more attacks off. This one I do like, especially since it can kind of be used by anyone. So even like your Imperial Breachers, your Death Watch Company, things of that nature, you can still get it off. Even you can use them in the care, I guess. You get that extra stain hit. I don't think you're really going to see it too often, especially for that, but it exists. There are weirder things. Orbital Oversight. So this is going to be one of your defensive ones. So during your opponent's shooting phase, just after it's selected target one of your agents of the Imperium infantry. Army that has been selected as target until the end of the phase. That model can only be selected for attack if it's within 18 inches. Or if your unit has a lone op ability, it moves down to 6 inches. So really good. Obviously, saves you from getting picked off long range. And especially for your assassins when they come in, especially off of the new change, like if you use the Colex or something and you get them in at the 6 inch mark because of the way core deployment is now, giving him that extra bit of leeway to where the enemy has to move in closer or they just can't target him at all. Really good for survivability. I really like this one. I think it's great and follows the assassin kind of theme that we're going with here very well. For the next one, blind grenades. During the opponent's charge phase, just after a unit has declared a charge. So you can target one of the agents of Imperium who have the grenade ability or Vindicare Assassin unit that was selected as a target and not within engagement range of one or more enemies. So if you're caught in a charge and a second unit comes in to try to reinforce that, this thing cannot work. So when you pop this until the end of the phase, subtract 1 to the charge roll. And then if the unit you selected was the Vindicare, subtract 2 from the charge roll instead. So if they're able to get up close, let's say, a deep strike in behind them, a 9-10, instantly make that a 12, or even not an option. Or like 11 or 12. Or, if they pulled even further back, they may take them out of charge rates just in general. Or just making it to where even a 6 to be a 7 to try to get on objective or something. I personally do like this one. I kind of wish it was more of an ability than a stratagem for CP, because this is already a very tight CP list. I don't think it's bad, but for what you're getting, I wish it was something. I wish the Vindicare effect was naturally on the 2 just for any unit selected, and then the Vindicare would get something a bit more special for its blind grenades, but overall, not a bad one. And it still fits the theme of the agents, but I think it is a little weak. And then lastly, Ensnaring Trap. To the end of the opponent's charge phase. So after everyone has either made a charge, failed it, declaration and everything, you choose one of your infantry units that is within 6 or more of one or more enemy units, and would be able to declare a charge against one of them. Your unit may declare a charge. When doing so, you must select one or more of those enemy units as the targeted charge. In addition, your unit does not receive the charge bonus, but if it is the Cowardice Assassin and it makes a charge as a result, your unit gets +1 to the wound roll in melee attack. So does Cowardice have fights first? That's a big thing, because if it doesn't, you might be in a bit of trouble. Cowardice. It does have fights first, so kind of a heroic intervention and not at the same time. So you get +1 to the wound roll. So strength 5. So probably taking a 5 down to a 4. Probably because a lot of times you swing up, or even like a 6 to a 5 if you absolutely have to. But overall, not bad. Again, it's kind of just there. It kind of lets you feel out if you need to, like, heroic intervention gives you another chance. I'm not a huge fan of the stratagem just in general. I wish they kind of got something else instead. I can see the appeal for, like, the Cowardice if it needs to, like, finish off a target that would be, like, deadly to one of your other units who got charged or something. But overall, I'm just not a huge fan of it. Ultimately, this detachment feels really weak, especially even compared to the other ones. Like, obviously the biggest one right now is Imperial Fleet, but even that struggles because we don't have like a faction rule that's just overall covers all of them. And this, while I do love the assassin models, are some of my favorites, I just don't see the value of only committing an entire detachment to 4 units. But let's go over the list. I've already got it pre-built, so we don't have to worry about like adding units or anything this time around. But let's go over kind of my interpretation of the list and kind of a similar list that I'll be running for this. So obviously for Epic Heroes, we've got our first For assassins, the Calidus, so 140, 140, Everswords 145, and then the Vindicator is 155. So your units, hundreds, 110s, instantly go up a lot more. It sucks that you're forced to take it. I really wish they were only like 20 points or something. Or honestly, it'd be best if they were just free, but you know, Games Workshop doesn't like the agents that much. So this is what we're working with. So for the Calidus Assassin, there's no like loadout changes or anything. So just to go over it, say she's North Predator, anti-infantry, 2 up, precision and torrent, you cannot miss, critic on 2s. It doesn't really do a whole lot outside of that. AP2 damage 1. Nothing to write home about. Nothing bad though. And it's melee. We have the face, sword, and poison blades, lethal hits, and precision. Lethal hits are nice. 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 5. So you really want those lethal hits because strength 5 just isn't intended to 2-lot. But if you do get the wounds, you're able to roll right or just get the lethal hits. AP4, damage 2. Really good in melee. As I said, it can jump up and down, and then it's with its new enhancement, you can take out a model and have it spring up over there instead. You can do that twice per battle. T4, 4 up invuln save, 6 regular save, so you're always going to be on invuln. 4 wounds and OC1. So really good to kind of bounce around, do secondary objectives, threaten the enemy home base. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on, but it's still very popular for completing secondary stuff. I do 100%, even if you don't want to take all 4, definitely take the Calidus. I would say the 2 you must take just in general, even if you're not running Veiled Blade, would be the Vindicator and the Calidus. But for the Colossus Assassin, we have him with the Animus Speculum, Anti-Psyker 2 up, Assault, Precision, and Psychic Assassin. Range for 3 attacks, hitting on 2s. Could wound on 2s if you're targeting a Psyker. AP2 damage 3, not bad. And then Life Draining Touch, another anti-Psyker weapon. This one has Dev Wound, so that's nice to have. So if you're able to get the target a Psyker, you also do get the Psychic Assassin for the ranged weapon, so you get 6 attacks instead of 3. Strength 4, so really hoping you go into a Psyker. AP2 damage 2, not a good damage. You do have a 2-up Feel No Pain against psychic abilities, but T4, once again, only on invuln save. 4 wounds, OC1. Not a bad one. I am obviously taking it because I want to be in theme with this attachment, but overall, if you're running something else, like just another attachment, you could definitely leave this guy behind. And he also has the free grenade, or not free grenades, but the grenades that wound on 3s instead of 4s. Then lastly, we're going to go to the Vindicator, and then we'll go over some other sheets as well. For the Vindicator, we kind of really touched on that one already. Let's just go over it again real quick. Exodus Pistol, Dev Wounds, ignores cover. I didn't even notice that. Pistol and Precision, so even if you're in a melee scrap with this, you can still take out a leader with your pistol. 3 attacks, hitting on 2s. Strength 6, which isn't bad for pistol, honestly. AP2 damage 3, definitely nothing to scoff at, especially with Dev Wounds. And then the Exodus Rifle, which got the big buff of the anti-vehicle and monster. Dev Wounds heavy, which is nice. Ignores cover and precision. So 1 attack, hitting on 2s. It's kind of weird that it gives it heavy, because you can't go any lower than a 2. But I guess it is what it is, I guess. Strength 8, so taking out character units was what this guy is meant to. Easily get them on 3s. You could shoot into a vehicle, especially now with the buff, so mainly being on 5s. So heavy would help with... No, heavy's not going to help with that, so your Dev Wounds are going to be your best choice. AP3, damage D3 plus 3, definitely nothing to scoff at. Really great model. And then for his combat knife, 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 4, AP1, damage 1. A good, solid all-around melee for dealing with other infantry units. You know, if a monster, like, I guess a person could send down a Primarch at it. Gonna be in a bit of trouble, but that'd be most units. T4, so all those stats pretty much have just the same thing in terms of their profile. T4, saving on 4s, 4 wounds, OC1. Another, in my opinion, a must run. But let's look at the other 3 characters I'm going to take. Inquisitor Kotias, I think he is a good add to the list. For him, he's got his Bolt Pistol and Psychic Blast. Bolt Pistol, 1 attack, hitting on 3, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. It's a pistol. And then Psychic Blast, Anti-Demon, 4-up, Anti-Infantry, 5-up. So you do have a decent chance of getting some good shots off with your dev wounds. It is a Psychic attack, if that doesn't matter, for certain models that have a feel up, a feel no pain against them, or gain bonus if you're in the ways of some assassins to deal extra damage. So keep an eye on that. D6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 3, so you're really counting on those dev wounds. AP 1, damage 1, and then his Nemesis Demon Hammer is also a psychic attack, so keep that in mind as well. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 9, not a bad melee profile, AP 3, damage 3, definitely nothing to scoff at, and if you get him into melee, especially with either like a T9 vehicle or just more infantry units, he can definitely put in some work on dealing some good damage on it. But his ability is more what I'm interested in. Well, this model's transport that can embark with its bodyguard that can embark in it, so he's not locked out of it. Malefic Wardings, when this model is leading unit, that model has a 6-up invuln save and a 4-up invuln save against psych attacks and attacks made by demons, which are very popular, especially with the new buff for Chaos Demons, so it's definitely something you're going to want to take. It's a very common thing to run into with a lot of Chaos armies, so it's good to have. And then Spy Network, anytime your opponent gains CP as rolled ability, Warm Lord, that's about the main one I know right now, but I know there are plenty others. You roll a D6 on 2-up, you also get a CP. Really great thing to have, especially in a very CP heavy detachment. Always getting extra CP is nice. And then for War Gear, he does have the Gullivan Psychic Eagle. During the command phase, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches until the start of your next command phase. That unit cannot get cover. So another really good thing to have. He has a lot going for him. He can be attached to a lot of units. T3, which isn't great, but a 2-up save, 4-up invuln. That's a great defensive profile with 4 wounds and OC1. I think it's definitely something you have to take, and I do have him set as the Warlord. Greyfax, I know she's not the most popular one right now, but I do still like having her just because of the way the meta is, especially with dealing with Psychers and demons. So for her, Castigation, anti-character 4-up, so really targeting other warlords or character-led units. Precision, dev wounds, and psychic, so keep in mind that psychic again. 1 attack, hitting on 3s, strength 8, which is not bad at all, especially dealing with other characters. AP2, damage 3, great profile for taking out leaders for units. And then the Condemner Stake, Anti-Psyker 2-up, dev wounds, precision, and rapid fire 1. So 1 attack or 2, depending if you're how close you are. Hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Not great, but that Anti-Psyker 2-up, you place it right, you can get some pretty decent shots off. And for melee, we have the Mastercraft Power Sword, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP 2, damage 2. Not a bad profile for dealing with infantry. Her profile is the same as Kotias. T3, actually no, hers is a bit worse. Actually, 1 worse for each. Normal save of 3, invuln of 5, 4 wounds. So not quite as tanky to stay around, but still not a bad one. Just got to make sure you get your rolls. And then for abilities, we have Authority of Inquisition. Well, this model is leading unit. Yeah, so that's going to be just the same as everyone. They can embark on a transport that his bodyguard can. For main ability, Psycholam, when this model's leading unit, the ranged weapons of those models have Anti-Psyker 4-up. So getting off those extra shots is really going to help. She's leading, and then No Mercy. the smallest leading unit. Each time this model makes an attack on a target, if that target is below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. This one, it really isn't going to come in too often. The main reason that I think you should take Greyfax is because of the anti-second for the model she's leading. But overall, you could slot in something else if you want to. But for what we're working with and the points cost, I think that's going to be your best bet. And lastly, for Epic Heroes, we have Watch Captain Artemis, which I want to point out real quick. I am not going to cover the Death Watch Index. I know originally I said I would, but that's when I thought their detachment or their thing would come here. I wasn't expecting agents to get their own separate detachment. I figured the Grotness detachment for these guys would have been the Death Watch, but they got their own index back, and I just simply do not know enough right now about just Space Marines as a whole to make a really educated, kind of deduction on it. So I will be when I am excited for it. I think it, on paper, from my understanding, what limited knowledge I have, it does look good. It's definitely what I'm going to be running, but it will not get its own video on it. I will just say that we'll be covering Gene Stealers, the Nurgle demons when they get announced. I think that's about it. But moving on, for range rations, we have the Hellfire Exterminus, Anti-Infantry 4-up, Devil Wounds, Ignores Cover, and Torrent. So, decent flamer, D6 attacks, automatically hits, Strength 4, AP 1, Damage 1, really going for that, those Dev Wounds. It's going to be a good Overwatch target to get off those Dev Wounds and Anti-Infantry 4-up. It's going to be nice. Outside of that, Mastercrafted Power Weapon, 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 2. A good melee for infantry, and being able to hit up a little bit, but overall, nothing too spectacular. For his abilities, Tactical Instinct. This is another reason why I say you should have him, is that all the models that are in the unit that he's leading has lethal hits. Always going to be good to get those extra shots off for Overwatch or something, or just in general. And then lastly, Unstoppable Champion. So for the first time when this model dies, roll d6 at the end of the phase, so that's important. He will not be set up back in a fight, or could be charged again if he's shot. So on a 2-up, set small back on the battlefield as close to possible where it was, destroy it, and not within engagement range, and he will have 1 rune remaining. So his profile is kind of a mix of Kotiaz and Greyfax. T4, natural save 3, invuln of 4, 4 wounds, OC1. Another really good unit to have. I think the biggest thing is Tactical Instinct, but Unstoppable Champion is nice to have if he gets picked off a little too early. And then that's it for Epic Heroes. Then for main characters, we're having an Inquisitor and a Watchmaster. So for the Inquisitor, where is there he is. You can have Bolt Pistol, Combi Weapon, or Psychic Shockwave. Bolt Pistol, nothing special. Combi Weapon, Anti-Infantry 4-up, Dev Wounds, Rapid Fire 1. 1 attack, hitting on 3s or 2 if you're within 12. Strength 4, AP 2, Damage 1, and then Psychic Shockwave, Dev Wound, Psychic Torrent. 2d6, which that's nice to have. Good Overwatch. Strength 3, not great. AP 2, Damage 1. So it's going to be kind of hard to get that Shockwave off outside of Psychic Wounds, or Devastating Wounds. And then Inquisitor Melee or Force Weapon. Not bad damage profiles for either. Force Weapon is the one I definitely would take, but keep in mind it is Psychic, so pick your targets carefully. It has the ability to board any transport, but the another big thing with this is the power of the Rosette. Each time you target this model unit with a stratagem, roll d6 on a 3-up, gain CP, so you're kind of getting some of that refund back for your CP if you're targeting for certain stratagems, which I think is always helpful. It's good to get CP back, especially with this. And then we'll have a Watchmaster with us. For the Watchmaster, he has the Vigil Spear, 2 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 4, AP 1, damage 2. Not a whole lot going on here, but his Vigil Spear does have Lance, so 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, AP 2, damage 3, and for Lance, each time attacks made, if the bearer had charged this turn, add 1 to the wound roll. So, pretty nice to have. Getting 3s, and maybe even 2s, depending on your target, pretty consistently. Always good to have, especially with that AP2 damage D3. Bit of rolly, but overall, you can definitely see some use out of it. Strategic knowledge, so obviously he's going to go with the Deathwatch kill team. For the unit, they're able to shoot and charge the turn they advance or fell back, so really good to move around the board, or if you need to pull back, shoot, and then charge back into melee, especially with Lance. Really good to have. And then the Rite of Battle. Once per battle round, when your unit, one unit from your army with this ability can use it. If this unit is targeted with stratagem, reduce the CP cost by 1. So another way to kind of cheat out command points, get stratagem off. Another really good option. I think you should at least have 1. And then lastly, when we go into infantry, we have 2 Deathwatch kill teams, one to go with the Watchmaster and one to go with Captain Artemis. Navy Breachers, an Exaction squad, all different weapons. It depends on what you feel. This is going to be up to personal preference. A Great Knight Terminator squad to go with Kotias, and a Sisters of Battle squad. Corvus Blackstar, because this thing really kind of lacks anti-vehicle. So it's going to be your kind of main way to deal with kind of heavier monsters and tanks. So you're not shooting up too much. And then I'm taking 2 Sisters of Battle emulators. Overall, of the dedicated transports, you get the Chimera, the Rhino, and the emulator. I think it's better. One's got multi-melta, one has the emulation flamers. Both 100 killer missiles, obviously. But overall, this is the list I would take with this. The biggest thing here is knowing that this is not going to be a good list. I don't even playing around, just know this is a very for fun detachment, or very theatrical if you're doing like a narrative campaign or something, or if you're facing Night Lords and just want to kill the Primarch again. But overall, this is not something you are ever going to see at a competitive tournament. This was kind of my best interpretation of it, so take it with a heavy grain of salt. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. You are all